Let me take just a minute to introduce Dr. Pitchford by her bio. So she's Ukrainian by birth, Arkansan by choice. Dr. Pitchford is an accomplished academic, and we're proud she is here with us today. Since 2015, Dr. Pitchford has been an associate professor of business at Central Baptist College in Conway, Arkansas. She teaches international business, business communications, principles of management, principles of marketing, entrepreneurship, leadership, organizational behavior, and other courses related to management and marketing disciplines. She currently serves as president of the Arkansas College Teachers of Economics and Business. Recently, Dr. Pitchford served as a faculty advisor for CBC Christ Light team at the 2021 Arkansas Governor's Cup Collegiate Business Plan Competition. So I've had the fortune to work with her as I've been a participant and MC for that event for a number of years, and have spoken to some of her classes in the past. So I know she's committed to Arkansas, committed to promoting business in our state, and helping our younger generation realize that there's a future in business. So I'm grateful for her and her friendship there. But what she's here to talk about today is that she is a native of, and I'm going to butcher the name, Dnipro, Ukraine. And Dr. Pitchford has many family and friends in the crossfires of this horrible invasion currently right now. We wanted you to hear from Dr. Pitchford directly. So, Dr. Pitchford, please.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Secretary Preston, for your introduction, and thank you, Governor Hutchinson, for inviting me to speak today. It's been an honor. I'm going to tell you, a little story about me and my home city, and then hopefully I'll be able to show you on the screen later faces of the Ukrainian people who directly benefit from what you do every day. Almost 18 years ago, I moved to Heber Springs, Arkansas from Dnipro, Ukraine, which is over 1 million people city. 7 years ago, I've been in Conway. I love my new home country, United States, but I love my home, Ukraine. It breaks my heart to watch on TV what happens and how many innocent lives are lost. It's very hard to see what's happening in Mariupol, Kharkiv, Kherson, and other cities where people are killed. I have 3 daughters, Elizabeth, who is 14, Sophia, who is 12, and Macy, who is 9 months old. I cannot imagine what it must be feel to have children in those cities and be trapped. But it's reality for so many mothers and fathers there. When I moved to Arkansas almost 18 years ago, people thought that I was Russian, and they would refer to me as I'm Russian, and it would get me very upset because I'm not Russian, I'm Ukrainian, even though my primary language is Russian because I'm from the eastern central part of Ukraine. I'm Ukrainian. And if anything good out of all this coming out, that people know now that Ukraine is not Russia. About my home city. You would not believe that Dnipro, Ukraine, and Camden, Arkansas are both rocket cities. Did you know that? So I'll get to my city here in a minute. Just think about it. Why would we be a rocket city? So at the beginning of time, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about Ukraine and my family line. Ukraine was an agrarian city, and if you look on the flag of Ukraine, you can see that there is yellow grains under blue sky. So Ukrainian people really didn't support communism because they were not hungry. Like, they had their land, they had their harvest, they had their livestock. But with communism taking place in 1922, Stalin and Lenin, they starved a lot of Ukrainian population through the fake famine. So they would just take everything that you had and would give it to feed USSR, and the people who worked on the land in Ukraine will starve. So this is how my great-grandmother Elizabeth passed away from famine, leaving behind 2 daughters and a husband. So the name of my grandmother was Alexandra, and her sister name was Maria, and their dad was Kirill. So he took the girls to the city, and they operated windmill. So at the age of 7, my great-grandmother, Alexandra, could make bread. I named my oldest daughter in her honor. So my grandmother, Alexandra, had a very difficult life. So she watched her mother died. Then she was a nurse during World War II, and she traveled on the hospital train through the war. She was in Berlin when Nazi Germany failed. Later, she became a medical doctor of physical therapy, and she was a director of the hospital, big hospital. She worked almost all her life, and she passed away at the age of 81, still working part-time. My youngest daughter, Macy's middle name is Alexandra, in honor of my grandmother. My grandmother had 2 children, Ludmila and Vladimir, my father. So can you tell Vladimir is a very popular Slavic name? Everybody, Vladimir. I was born in the USSR in 1982. I had an average family. My mom worked for the only one bank in the country. And my father worked at the post-mail train delivering mail to Siberia. My city, Dnipro, is a rocket city because it was very strategic for USSR, because it started in 1944 as a car manufacturing, but in 1951 it was transformed into the top secret rocket building factory. So, and the plant was called Yuzhmash, and then Yuzhny Design Bureau opened later to help design the rockets. Dnipro was a closed city, and what it meant that no foreigners can enter the city. So think about that, not to steal top secrets. So we had soccer is very popular in Ukraine, so we had a soccer team, Dnipro, and they would have to travel 7 miles to Zaporozhye to play on their stadium all the time. And actually, Zaporozhye been on TV because this is a nuclear plant there, and you saw that was fires breaking there through. So I moved all the way to Arkansas and live in Conway, and nuclear plant is 70 miles away again. I remember when the USSR collapsed, there was a lot of uncertainty, and everything that was owned by the government now was kind of like nobody's. So a lot of people wouldn't get their salaries paid, and later on the process of privatization started, and people who had government connections bought all this property, factories, plants, with a fraction of price. So space and defense manufacturing is no longer flourishing in Dnipro. However, I was doing a little research, and there is a rocket, Zenit, that Elon Musk finds very wonderful rocket, and it was produced in Dnipro, Ukraine. In 2017, my daughters and my husband, we went to visit my relatives in Ukraine because they had never been. And my cousin, Natasha, she got us a private tour with the Museum of Aerospace and Defense Industry. And the person who was giving us a tour, he worked previously for this factory. He gave us a 3-hour tour, and I can build a rocket now. It was very detailed. We barely survived. Now, I want to tell you a story of my friend Tanya. Is my picture gonna come up there? You can go a little before. There was a few pictures too. This is my last picture. Can I look at 3 pictures before that? Just a little more. With the first picture there, it says my family. All right. We'll just stay there, but with few pictures that you just saw, one of the pictures is my cousin and uncle. My uncle is a retired emergency room physician. He lives by the bridge that has dynamite under it, and he told us this in 2017, that when Russians are gonna come, the bridge gonna be exploded. So, and I talked to my uncle this weekend, and I don't know if I'll talk to him again or not. My cousin, Natasha, she's a lung doctor. She's not going to leave her dad, and she's going to stay in Ukraine. The other pictures that you saw a minute ago, those are my teachers that taught me in high school. Other pictures, my friends that I grew up with. This is behind me. This is my husband, my 2 kids, and this apartment complex, these 2 windows, this is my home, where I grew up till I was 21 years old and came to the United States. I always thought we had 1-bedroom apartment, but in reality, we had 1-room apartment. But at the very last picture, this is my friend Tanya, not this one, the very last one. So this is Tanya, her husband Seryoja, and their daughter Kateryna. So Kateryna now 14 years old. I'm just gonna tell you a story about Tanya. Tanya had a very difficult childhood, and her parents were not very involved with her because they had other issues. So she grew up, she was raised by her grandmother, and it made it difficult because her parents lived across the hallway in the apartment complex. So Tanya didn't have good grades, and her grandma suggested her going to a sewing school to learn how to sew and make a living later. So she did, but then she figured out that she couldn't make a good living. So her other grandmother lived in my apartment complex, and Tanya ended up inheriting this 1-room apartment. So I grew up in 1-room apartment, Tanya grew up in 1-room apartment. So Tanya decided that she gotta make more money. So she went to work for ice cream factory, and she worked about 50, 60 hours a week making ice cream, and she was having a lot of night shifts. So, but Tanya wanted to have something better for herself. So she chose to save money and to go learn accounting. So she got master's degree in accounting, and she got all A's. So she graduated summa cum laude. A lot of people brag on me that I had always A's and got a PhD. But to me, knowing how Tanya started and that she had very small support system and that she propelled in her life to have a master's degree in accounting, working now at the auto dealership. Her husband works in sales, but at night he makes extra money by being a taxi driver. So basically having 2 jobs. Until 2 years ago, they still lived in that 1-room apartment, and we visited them, and they cooked us a feast, like Thanksgiving dinner for me, my husband, and my daughters. And my husband always remembers that. So 2 years ago, Tanya was able to save enough money that they can move to 2-bedroom apartment, which is big, and they have car. It's an accomplishment in Ukraine. So she worked very hard for all that they have. And on February 24th, she woke up because of the air sirens going off, because Dnipro airport was bombed and the air sirens was going off. In Dnipro, Dnipro is not in as bad situation as many cities on the north and south, but you don't know what's coming and when Russians gonna close up on you. I called Tanya right away, and Tanya said that I am not leaving. I worked so hard for all that I have here in Ukraine, and I'm not leaving my husband behind. So I talked to her this weekend, and the situation had changed, You had the fire at the nuclear plant just 70 miles away from Dnipro. The forces keep coming. Dnipro got bombed in the last 3 days more. And now Tanya's making decision that this week she will be telling goodbye to her husband and will take her 14-year-old daughter, Kateryna, and they will be driving with their friends to Slovakia. And they may never see their husband again and their dad. When I told Tanya that I'm gonna talk to you today and thank you for what you do every day She wanted also for me to tell you thank you from her and all Ukrainian people that you're enabling them to protect their home, their land, their children, their wives, the life that they love. Those missiles that you make every day, the Hellfire, Stinger missiles, warhead for Javelin, anti-tank weapons, and the propulsion systems, they all make big difference. There would be probably more casualties in Ukraine if it wouldn't be for you and what you do. From the bottom of my heart, I want to tell you thank you for saving Ukrainian lives. Thank you for empowering them with what you do. I truly believe that Ukrainian army will win this war. Thank you, and glory to Ukraine.